Welcome back to another episode of Data Science at Home podcast. I'm Francesco, podcasting from the office of Amethyx Technologies based in Brussels City, Belgium. Today I would like to speak probably some of the one latest trend in development, which is goes under the name of vibe coding. I'm very skeptical about these things. I'm not skeptical at all, against new technology, but I have some concerns about what vibe coding can do, especially to some developers, some types of developers. And so in this episode, I would like to take some time to explain, first of all, what is vibe coding, and then, of course, what some people should be expecting from vibe coding and what some others should instead, because as you can understand, vibe coding is not for everyone. And as I will try to explain in this episode, uh, only a few people, very few people can actually take advantage of this new, let's say, programming technique. Now, in the last recent weeks, I've heard a lot of people talking about this vibe coding thing that is actually the future of programming and software development. And to be very honest with you, I've been quite surprised by even hearing and reading from those that are supposed to be the experts about their opinions, the opinions they had about vibe coding. So I hope that I can clarify all this in this episode and finally, indeed make some clarity about this trend. Now, vibe coding, very long story short, is that kind of chaotic, kind of magical state where you stop overthinking. In fact, you stop thinking. You just trust your instincts and you let the code flow, as they say, through you or through your fingers or whatever. And then all of a sudden, you should get some kind of more or less usable code that some people say it's amazing and some other people say it's terrible. Some other people say that, yeah, I replicated LinkedIn overnight and look at this, it works. So I should forget about, coding. I should start vibe coding instead. Now, I definitely would not take this for granted. I know that some people are, saying, no, you must plan everything. That actually myself, you must write documentation before you even think about opening your editor and all these things, kind of the old school way of building software. And to be very honest with you, for some projects, I have that approach of, uh, very old school, if we want to say that, but it's in fact the most real approach to programming, especially when you are programming or building or designing critical systems. So I would not generalize. I'm here to say that vibe coding can actually be something for some people, for some types of developers, because indeed it can speed up time. It can speed up the development process, and I will explain in more details in this show. But what I want to say is that for sure, uh, vibe coding is good for those who really know what they are doing. All the others uh, who partially know what you're doing, and especially those who do not know what you're doing, like those who, barely open their editor to type code. Uh, those people, in my opinion, should stay away from vibe coding because it's not a good tool for them to, first of all, produce something usable. And even if by any chance they, produce something usable, um, it's going to be very hard to maintain because this is code that is actually generated from millions and millions of lines of code written by others, and there is no real reasoning around that. There is just analogy in some constructs uh, that indeed are transferred from one project to another. Like if you're writing, for example, a linked list, okay, a linked list for a fintech application, of course, is the same linked list for a blockchain, God forbid, but or for any other type of sector, whatever linked lists are involved. For the record, linked lists are almost never involved in production software. it's an academic thing. Now, if you don't know this, that there are many other ways to implement the functionality of a LinkedIn in constant time, for example, instead of n or log n. Well, then you have a problem, because you would just blindly use that code just because the AI agent has generated that for you, and you start believing that's actually like the all gold that you can introduce into your code or in the rest of your project. So first thing first, what is vibe coding again? It's when you stop over analyzing every little thing, you stop second guessing yourself, and you just code. Okay, so you sit down, you put on some music, and that's already a bad sign for me, and you let your fingers fly. But now it's not about writing perfect code from the start, for sure. It's about keeping momentum, as they say. So this only works if you already know what you're doing, obviously, because only those people who have automated that process of not thinking too deeply in what they are doing, it means that these people have spent thousands of hours doing what they do. And so if they have something else, an AI agent or any other entity that generates that code for them, they just have to overlook, look through the lines, not really deep understanding, because they know what it does, right? And these are these are developers who are actually experts. So these people already have tools to automate certain aspects of their programming life. I use a lot of macros, for example, especially with Rust, when you have to declare traits, for those who understand what I'm talking about. But otherwise in Python as well, when you have to create, for example, a class, you have the structure or the skeleton or the scaffolding of your class, and then you start filling in the things that you need to customize for your particular project. But these are all already tools that help you saving time, right? And vibe coding wants to actually stretch that concept to, beyond the scaffolding, beyond the structure of your class or whatever it is, of your function. It wants to add something more. For example, you want to write an API request, or you want to handle an API request with response. These are very structured parts and quite mechanical parts of your project. Or you need a regex pattern. Okay, same story. Now, the AI body or agent, or even, I'm used to do a lot of pair programming, which is the concept of, programming with one of your colleagues or friends. One is actually typing, the other is watching. It has a bigger picture. He or she can be consulting other sources, do some Googling or Stack Overflowing, if that's still something people do. And the other is actually typing, taking care of the low-level details like syntax, for example, and even the first or the preliminary optimizations that you immediately see when you type something. Don't declare a variable 3 times if you can reuse it within the same scope and stuff like that. So these are the people. I personally do this, and I cherish this a lot because it's very helpful. I've been doing this for like 20 years. On and off. What the AI agent wants to pretty much, mimic is, in my opinion, the pair programming experience, which is okay. But again, in pair programming, both the developers know what they're doing. So it works well because they come from usually the same background or a very similar background. Or even if they come from different backgrounds because they're complementary figures, their level of expertise is still comparable. And that's not always the case when you use an AI agent. I've seen people who, of course, never programmed in their life. They never wrote a line of code, and all of a sudden they feel like, oh wow, now I can code because I can actually write a prompt, type a prompt, and then I get my AI buddy spitting a programming language that I have to copy paste somewhere else and compile if it's a compiled language, or just run if it's a Python or interpreted language. Now, let's talk about why this actually works for experienced developers. Well, if you already understand good architecture, if you already know how to debug, for example, vibe coding can speed things up, that's for sure. And in my opinion, it can also help you being fast and creative, because you all of a sudden write faster. I mean, that's undeniable. There is not so much overthinking, again, on the things that you master. And these things that don't require overthinking are things that even without an AI agent would not require overthinking. So don't get fooled by the fact that now there is an AI and you stop overthinking. You were already not overthinking because one, you are an expert, and two, the things that you are getting help for by the AI body is something that you can do yourself. You just don't want to because you want to use your time more optimally. So there is no endless Google searches, there's no endless Stack Overflow searching and skimming. You just write code that actually works. Um, the second benefit, in my opinion, again, for expert developers, is that you stay in the flow. As we all know, interruptions kill productivity. Now, of course, you might have your phone parked on your desk and you get these interruptions anyway. That's a different story. Just put your mobile phone off or in silent mode or in airplane mode when you're coding, if you're coding something important. But again, having the obligation to Google because you might have forgotten the syntax of something and then coming back to your editor, it can actually break your flow and break your rhythm. And so, of course, if you have an AI assistant that prevents you from Googling and Stack Overflowing, it makes things faster, and also it doesn't break the flow, which means that your brain is always focused on the thing that you are trying to solve. As a consequence, this had, in my opinion, the third benefit, which is you start solving problems intuitively. So instead of rigid planning, you let solutions kind of emerge naturally as you work. And again, this is something that, in my opinion, would have come already because there are many mechanics that you're not taking into account anymore, not that deeply as you did when you were a newbie. Now these things come out kind of naturally. That's the magic of being an expert and of having 20 plus years of computer programming on your back. With the AI agent, this can be emphasized. This can definitely be augmented. And that's why, in my opinion, it's a very good aspect of vibe coding if you know what you're doing. Now, AI can make this entire process even smoother. For example, using auto-completion systems for functions or for entire code chunks, or generating test cases. That's another thing that I've been personally experiencing quite nicely. Very, very positive experience about that. I write a function, I write a trait with some methods, and then I say, you know what, generate me some basic tasks. Those that are not really tricky, because even writing test cases is a critical aspect of the development process. If you don't test properly, you might not realize some of the nasty logical errors that they're definitely not compiler errors. Like your compiler works, a compiler says okay, but actually there is a logical error, or there is something that an edge case that you didn't foresee. Now, if you're new to programming, this is probably not for you. So I want to break the enthusiasm here and definitely tell you not to follow this trend if you are not a programmer by profession. You will eventually become one, if you study, but don't believe the, idea that with vibe coding you all of a sudden become a programmer, an expert. That will not happen. You will make a lot of damage and you will generate a lot of crappy code. Except that you will not realize that because you will live in this limbo in which you will believe that that code is actually good because someone else generated it for you. So if you don't understand why something works, uh, vibing your way through the code that you have in front of your prompts will leave you with a pile of code that you definitely cannot maintain. Uh, that's undeniable for me. It's such a natural conclusion, um, and this, of course, can be extremely dangerous. Guess why? Is because, well, you probably have been selling yourself to your boss as an expert developer. Your boss will believe that. They will start seeing that, yeah, after all, you generate packages like a possessed. You're very, the volume of your code starts growing, but you don't understand what that code, how that code works, and your boss will definitely not notice until the entire system collapses one day. Usually at 2 a.m. is when things collapse. Now, this indeed can be extremely dangerous. So, the actual biggest danger is that if you are learning how to code, vibe coding will not help you in that learning process. Actually, it will do quite the opposite. It will force you not to learn things uh, because you just generate stuff, and if you don't have the right prompts, or if you don't ask every time why did you use this data structure and why did you use that, uh, the agent will probably not explain you all the time why certain decisions have been taken, and then you will not understand, or you will not learn, in fact, when to use what. Um, while I would advise, recommend to do the opposite, to first know the constructs, learn how programming works, how computer architectures work, and then eventually use vibe coding, do some vibe coding, because by then you will have a good background. I'm not saying a super solid background, for that you need years, but you will have a good background for at least, judge the code that will be spit on your screen or vomited by the AI agent, because that's what it is. So to summarize this, vibe coding is, in my opinion, extremely dangerous for beginners. It makes you feel you know things when you actually don't. Um, you don't learn debugging skills. That's another thing that I had top of my head. Debugging is an art, especially when code is or badly written or simply complex, or usually written by multiple people, which is almost always the case, especially when you work with medium-sized organizations or open source projects. So the style, the decisions that people have taken are not the same. The style, the programming style is not the same. Sometimes even naming convention is not the same. So many things can change across people, and learning how to debug things that have been written by multiple people is not something that is natural. It's something that comes with the years. And not knowing how to do that is um, is a big minus for a developer. Um, Another thing is that you miss out on foundational concepts, as I said already. Uh, if you don't know anything about computational complexity and why to use certain data structures uh, other than others, you will not. If you never learn these things, you will never have a way to uh, assess the quality of the code that is generated. You will just use it. You will be a code consumer rather than a developer. And then the biggest consequence and danger that I see, especially in the new kids uh, who are approaching developments and programming, is that it builds bad habits. I mean, uh, good coding isn't just about getting something that works, that compiles. Works is a big word. Um, it's about writing maintainable code, efficient code, scalable code. Whatever you do today, you do probably for the masses. Um, Hopefully, several million people are going to use your code at some point if you are building something scalable. And not having scalability or not having any concept of scalability in mind, will never let you build scalable code or scalable systems. So vibe coding without knowledge will lead you to spaghetti code, which as an Italian I should be promoting, but but I don't, because the only spaghetti I like is the actual ones. It's gonna be hard when you are in front of spaghetti code, especially when this code is generated by someone else or something else that didn't understand. Like that AI agent, don't expect that it understands what it generates. It generates things statistically similar to something else in their training set. They don't reason about the generation. You don't reason either, because as a human, you're just using that code. You ask for a generation and you just consume it. So who's gonna be reasoning on that code? Nobody. Probably the user, but that's too late. So that's a big problem. Now, what is my advice? My advice is, of course, you don't have to ditch vibe coding. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you have to use it. I advise you. I recommend you to use it that as a tool. Not immediately, especially when you are a newbie. And newbie is not a bad thing. It's just at the beginning of your career, you're learning stuff. So just learn them. The tools that new developers have these days are way more powerful than the tools that we had 20 years ago. And when I learned programming, I was like 7. So it's a long time ago, more than 30 years ago. And we had nothing. We had a text editor, and in fact, I had the Borland C. Yeah, now I'm getting nostalgic, but we had really nothing. Like a keyboard and a screen and an editor. There was no syntax highlighting. There was no code completion. There was not such a thing. And you had to remember how all the syntax worked. And we had books parked to the left and to the right of the keyboard. At least that's what I did. So the tools that you guys have today are extremely powerful. This doesn't mean that you have to abandon your brain because you have more powerful tools. These are tools that have to enhance your experience, augment you in a way, not replace you. If you think that machines will replace developers anytime soon, in my opinion, you are on the very wrong path. I hope this helps. And of course, vibe coding it's not a scam. It's not the enemy, as people have been telling me about my opinions. I don't think vibe coding is the enemy. I don't think it's a lazy way to code if it's used properly. So if you already know what you're doing, it's a powerful way to build things fast and to actually spend more time on being creative. Why not? Because programming is a lot of creative. It's a very creative task. It's a creative process, and if you are new to programming, I think vibe coding is a trap. You should not be using that. So you should not fall for the illusion of progress. There's no such progress. It's an illusion, as I said, and it will hit you back very, very soon. So that's it for today's episode. If you enjoyed this, of course, make sure to subscribe. We have a Discord channel. We have the official website, of course, datascienceathome.com. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podbean, whatever is the provider you use to listen to this show, and of course our YouTube channel. All the links in the show notes of this episode on datascienceathome.com. Speak soon.